Aloha ahi ahi. I got a direct message, somebody asking me for some tips on roundhouse cutbacks and some dryland training. In surfing, how I've coached it and really helped a lot of athletes and non-athletes who, well, if you're a surfer, you're an athlete, right? Who've asked me or come and worked with me for some help is you have to be able to create force and direct force so that surfboards work properly. And if you can create the right amount of force against the rocker on the right part of the wave, you'll be surfing even better. But that's a whole nother video. So for this video, we're working on front side roundhouse cutback. So you have to be able to create force. What does that look like? You have to be able to compress. Surfing is compression. You've got to be able to access the power of your hamstrings, glutes, calves, feet, quads. And once you're in that compression, you've got to be able to direct that force that you've created. So a lot of surfing is in compression and rotation, whether you're backside or front side. So one of the things he said, it seems I stand too tall and I have a lot of trouble getting low. So first thing that comes to my mind is probably pretty tight in the calves, hips, glutes, hamstrings. He's got to work on some mobility. You can go to my YouTube channel, Kahea Hart North Shore Surf Clinic Hawaii. There's some videos there on mobility with rollers and stretching. So once you've worked on your mobility, then you need to start building yourself up. Learn how to access that posterior chain, finding the power in the hamstrings and the glutes and the power of the hips. The hips are the biggest joint in the body, so they can create the most force and take the most force. So like I said, surfing is a lot of compression and rotation. So you've got to be able to get into this position and then direct where you want this force to go. There's a lot of this out there where guys are coaching for compression, drop the knee and rotate. Well, then I'm only working with one leg. You need both legs. You need to be able to turn your hips. This knee is naturally going to come in when you rotate. You don't have to drop it in. Then you're just causing more wear and tear on the ankle, knee, and hip joint. So some of the exercises that I use to get people to find that is you can learn some foundation training. Lots of posterior chain from the feet all the way forward, expanding the ribs, creating strength from the inside out. You can find that at streaming.foundationtraining.com. I've also got a video on my training page on NorthShoreSurfClinicHawaii.com. So some of the exercises you can do is take a stability ball up against the wall. You're gonna put it on your low back and butt, right across the kind of sacrum there, right across your hips. Bring the feet out, about 45 degrees off the ball. Chest up, chin up. Chest is tall, neck is back, hands out to the side. You're gonna bring the hips down, pushing the knees out slightly, bring the hands forward to counterbalance and push up. Just leaning into the heels, finding those hamstrings and glutes. So feet are square at the moment. You're gonna take a half step back with the back foot so that the big toe of the back foot of your right foot, if your regular foot, is in line with the midpoint of the left foot. You're gonna be looking down the line. The wave face is here. You're going into a roundhouse cutback. So right now, most of my weight, probably about 60% of my weight is on my back foot. I'm come down, compress. I'm gonna lift before, I'm gonna do this like a slight bottom turn or a little pump. This hand reaches up and away, but I don't transfer my weight into my front foot. I keep the weight in my back foot. Hand comes up away from the body in the direction I'm going, because now my body's got leverage. With that front arm, and mostly your eyes, keeping the weight in the back leg pushes slightly. We're not gonna extend, we're gonna put pressure into the back leg, reach the arm, and turn the palm up to open up the shoulder, and turn the head. I'll show you again. You're gonna get low, lean against the ball, get low, keep the back nice and straight. We're not rounding over. Keep low, Reach the arm forward. Keep the weight on that back foot. Don't transfer your weight forward into your front foot. Weight on the back foot. Arm is away. Now you have leverage with that front arm. Eyes turn and look in the direction. Don't drop that back knee. Pressure into the back foot, pulling this front hip in the direction and looking where you're going. Leverage, look, pull that arm open, weight into the back foot, left hip is coming around, chest comes forward a little bit, so you've got weight on that front rail. If you open and stand and straighten the front leg, all the weight goes onto the back foot, inside rail of the turn comes up, comes out of the water. You go into a cutback, but you won't get all the way back to the whitewater. So you need to keep these legs engaged and rotating around. With this profile view of the exercise, you're able to see where your body needs to be in space, and that you have to be able to compress and access the power of your hamstrings and your glutes. Give yourself a bit of leverage with that front arm coming away from the hip, turning the head, shoulders, and front hip, putting compression into the back foot, but actually sitting into both heels to bring the turn around. Don't point your hand down in the water. Be precise with that front arm and compress into the turn. Some common flaws are people compress, they go into extension. And now to go into a cutback, it works, it'll get you out there, but now to go into cutback, they've got to compress again. If you can stay compressed and just use the leverage of the arm to direct the force, and then redirect the force. Head, shoulders, front arm, front hip, rotating and pointing in the direction you're going. Another fault is people get here, they come up, or they may even stay low. They stay low, they get here, they go into the cutback, they drop the hand. Boom, they're down. You don't want to point your hand down to the water. Leverage, eyes, shoulders, hips, and knees. Knees stay engaged. Hip, shoulders, and eyes rotate in the direction you want to go. The more precise you are with this front hand, the better you'll arrive where you want to be. If you point it down, that's a progression for when you actually master this straight roundhouse cutback. Because if you drop this hand towards the water, it becomes a pivot point, and if you're not accomplishing a full roundhouse cutback, you'll most likely end up in the water. So along with the stability ball exercises that I showed you, I really recommend riding a skateboard. You can get carved boards, which are way more like a surfboard. They go on rail. You have to use a lot of surf mechanics and technique to actually make them go. Other ones are carvers. They're pretty good. Best thing about riding and working on a skateboard is you can repeat the muscle memory over and over and over in a controlled environment, rather than waiting for a wave, or if you pick the wrong wave and it doesn't have a clean face for you to work on maneuvers that you need to work on. So I really suggest getting the larger skate decks out of all of them, especially if you're an adult. That way you can open your stance and have a better base and create more force and emulate surfing more. If you get a really short deck, this is a shorter one. This is, I think, 32, 34, 34, and these are about 36 or 35 and a half. When it's a shorter base, like the smaller kids will ride the small one, and then if you're bigger, a longer deck is better, and it just makes more sense. That way you can emulate what you're doing in the water, create the right amount of space in your stance so that you can control your surfboard. So let's go give it a try. First things first, make sure you know where you're standing on your carve board. Back foot on the tail and front foot right behind the screws of the front trucks, past the midpoint, of course, just like a surfboard. Feet gotta be in the right place for the board to work right. Remember you want a nice strong athletic stance. Back foot on the tail, front foot just behind or on top of those front trucks. So here are a couple different angles of what you can do on the Carver skateboard. You always want to
Get that front arm away from the knee, and then sit and compress into your turn, never letting your knees go past 90 degrees. Front arm opens up, eyes, head, shoulders, and hips. Rotate into the turn. But if you really pay attention, every time the first movement is compression. Next step, front arm comes away from the knee to create leverage, and then the eyes and head turn, and the shoulder, front arm, and hip follow.